So we are in controlling. My voice is clear now.
Clear,
My
sir.
voice is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yesterday we have completed the enterprise structure for controlling. So today we have to start cost element accounting. So this cost element accounting is the base module for all the other sub-modules in controlling. Without cost element accounting, we cannot implement the other controlling modules, right? So using the cost element accounting, we can identify all expenses and incomes from the financial accounting to controlling component for analysis purpose. Here I told you the controlling component is always concerned with analysis of expenses and revenues. Okay. Now, these expenses and revenues are existing in the general ledger accounting of financial accounting. We cannot analyze these expenses and revenues as it is in the general ledger accounting of financial accounting. We can analyze them only in control. So in order to analyze these expense and revenues in controlling, we have to bring all the expenses and revenues into controlling components. So with the help of the cost element accounting, we can say in the normal sense, we can bring all the expenses and incomes from FI to control. That means every expense account and revenue account is created as a cost element in control. Every expense account and revenue account are created as a cost element, the cost element account. That is what exactly we do. But from the entry point of view, what is cost element? It is the cost relevant item in the chart of accounts. See, it is the cost relevant item in the chart of accounts, right? After this sentence, you please add one more sentence there. An item in the chart of accounts. An item in the chart of accounts is considered as a cost relevant, is considered as cost relevant if that item is taken into consideration, if that item is taken into consideration, if that item is taken into consideration when we are calculating the total cost of production. When we are calculating the total cost of production. Just a minute. See, it is the cost relevant item in the chart of accounts. What is chart of accounts? What is chart of accounts? Answer, please. What is chart of accounts? Can anybody hear me? What is chart of accounts?
List of ledgers. GL. List of GL.
Nirosha?
Yes, sir. Sir, a chart of accounts is a good list of all the GL accounts to be maintained in a company.
Previously, I heard a male voice.
Yeah, somebody answered. I don't know before I answered.
No issues, no issues. Okay. Yes, you are right. See,
Yeah.
chart of accounts is a list of GL accounts, right? So it is the cost element means it is the cost relevant item in the chart of accounts. An item in the chart of accounts is considered as cost element when we take that item when you are calculating the cost of production. Say, for example, these are the GL accounts you have created in the chart of accounts. For example, share capital account, cash account, salaries account, wages account, interest account, depreciation account, rent account, sundry expense account, then plant and machinery account, buildings account, land account, accumulated depreciation account, sales account, salesman commission account, sale of scrap, trade discount, etc., etc. We have created number of GL accounts. Now, today we are calculating total cost of production. Do you take the share capital into cost of production? Do we take the share capital
No, no,
into consideration?
no,
No, no, right? So share capital is not a cost relevant. So it is not cost element. Cash account. Cash account means cash in hand. We also don't consider cash balance into cost of production. So cash account also is not cost element. Okay, salaries. So we add salaries into cost of production. So salaries account is a cost element. Wages, we take wages also into consideration when we calculate total cost of production. So wages is a cost element. On the same lines, interest is a cost element. Depreciation is a cost element. Rent account is a cost element. Sundry expense account is a cost element. Plant and machinery is not cost element. Buildings is not cost element. Land account is not cost element. Accumulated depreciation is not cost element. Sales account, actually, sales account is a revenue account, right? So the word cost element is also used to represent revenues also. So salesman commission is a cost element. Sale of scrap is a cost element. Trade discount is a cost element. So here, out of the list of GL accounts here, right? These are our cost elements. Rent account, salaries account, wages account, interest account, depreciation account, sale of scrap, salesman commission, trade discount, etc., etc. So what are all these items? These are all profit and loss account items. So profit and loss account items means expenses and revenues. So all the expense accounts and revenue accounts are created as cost elements in controlling in the cost element accounting module. So all these are expenses and revenue accounts means these are all P&L account items. That's why I told you the controlling component is always concerned with analysis of expenses and revenues. Clear? So simply saying cost element means it represents every expense account and revenue account in the general ledger accounting. Now, all the primary cost elements are profit and loss accounts. So what is primary cost elements? I'll explain. And the cost elements are used to carry the expenses and incomes into controlling for analysis purpose. Then we have the two types of cost elements, primary cost elements and secondary cost elements. So what is primary cost element? All the cost elements which have the corresponding GL accounts in financial accounting and to which cost elements we can post directly are called primary cost elements. See, all the cost elements which have the corresponding GL accounts in financial accounting and to which cost elements we can post directly are called primary cost elements. Means all your expense accounts in the chart of accounts are called primary cost elements. F.10. GL account 3 lakhs to 4 lakh 599. These are all our revenues and expenses. See, these are all your revenues and expenses. So these are all your expenses revenue GL accounts, right? So these are called primary cost elements. So when we have the GL accounts, right, we can post to them in F-02 or in FB50 directly. So every cost element which has the corresponding GL account in F5 and to which cost element we can post directly are called primary cost elements. So these are all primary cost elements. Means these are all created as primary cost elements now. The primary cost elements are used to identify all the expenses and incomes from financial accounting into controlling. The primary cost elements arise due to the consumption of production factors which are sourced externally, like material consumption, labor, other direct and indirect expenses. In order to create a primary cost element in controlling, first it should be created as GL account in financial accounting. Means without a corresponding GL account in financial accounting, we cannot create the primary cost element in controlling. So the primary cost element is the main integration point between FI and CO. The values will flow from FI component to CO component through primary cost elements. Now, so every expense account and revenue account are called primary cost elements. Every expense account and revenue accounts in the chart of accounts are created as primary cost elements, right? Then in the primary cost element master record, we have to specify the cost element category. So primary cost element categories, right? Some space is here, no? Please write down one sentence there. The primary cost element categories, describes the nature of the primary cost elements. Means here in every primary cost element master record, we have to specify the primary cost element category. And these primary cost element categories were system defined, right? We cannot create our own categories or we cannot edit the existing categories. And each category is represented with one number. That number we have to remember. So general primary cost elements are cost to reducing revenues. See, general primary cost elements are cost to reducing revenues. Revenues which reduces the cost. That's how you have to understand. Cost to reducing revenues means revenues which reduces the cost. That means this category is used to identify all the expenses and other revenues which have the effect of the reducing the cost directly. For example, salaries, rent, wages, etc. So salaries, rent, wages, when you create these three expenses as primary cost elements, in their master records, we enter the 0. Normally, for every expenses, for every expenditure, normally I'm telling you, there are some exceptions. Normally, for every expenditure account, when it is created as a primary cost element, we use the category 0. Generally, all the expenses in financial accounting, except work in progress GL accounts and production variances related GL accounts and sales expenditure related GL accounts. Except these types of GL accounts, right? Every other expenditure accounts are created as primary cost elements of category number 1. Then 03 imputed cost elements, percentage method. 04 imputed cost elements, target is equal to actuals. The categories 03 and 04 are used to provide the provisions in controlling and to process the one-time expenditure like bonus and labor welfare expenses. You know, we create the provisions in FI. Similarly, in controlling also, we have to create the provisions. And also sometimes we have to take into consideration one-time expenditures. So at that time, we use this 03 or 04. So why do we create the provisions in controlling? How do we create the provisions in controlling? I will explain you separately. There is a separate topic in the cost center accounting. At that time, I will explain that. But for the time being, right, this category 03 and 04 are used to provide the provisions in controlling. Then 11, revenue elements. This category is used to identify all the incomes into controlling, example sales. Now, one more thing here is sale of scrap. So sale of scrap is also a revenue, right? So the sale of scrap, when you create the sale of scrap account, here sale of scrap means sale of production scrap within brackets. Within brackets, sale of production scrap, not plant and machinery scrap. Sale of production scrap. Here, when we sell sale of production scrap is also basically one type of revenue, right? So when you create that revenue as a primary cost element, we enter the category 01. Why? Because here the sale of scrap will reduce the cost. The sale of scrap will reduce the cost. How? Suppose, for example, we have one production process. At the end of the production process, every day some scrap is inevitably generated. And sometimes you'll be able to sell the scrap. You get the revenue. In that case, what is the accounting treatment we give for the sale of production scrap? We reduce the revenue from the sale of scrap from the total cost of the process. That means the total cost of process is reduced by this revenue. So we enter 0. But for the sales, we enter 12. Then number 12, sales deductions. This category is used to identify all expenses which have the effect of reducing the sales revenues. Reducing the sales revenues.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah, just a minute, just a minute. Yes. See, number 12, sales deductions. This category is used to identify all the expenses which have the effect of reducing the sales revenues. Example, trade discounts, salesman commission, etc. See, very important. This category is used to identify all the expenses which have the effect of reducing the sales revenues. All the expenses which have the effect of reducing the sales revenues. Example, trade discounts, salesman commission, etc. In short, it is used for the sales related expenditure related GL accounts. Don't get confused with all this terminology. It is used for the sales related expenditure related GL accounts. It means all the expenditure directly involved in the billing in SD module are to be created as a primary cost element category number 12. These expenses GL accounts are linked to SD module, the FISD integration, VKOS settings. The main purpose of this cost element category is to update the cost in the profitability analysis. The cost elements created with this category number 01, the system cannot transfer the cost from SD to COPA. Forget about all this technical terminology, right? This technical terminology, we have the separate topic in COPA. At that time, I will explain you. But for the time being, right, remember that every expenditure which have the impact of reducing our sales revenues are created with the category number 12. Let us take one example. Here, we have one GL account, salesman commission based on turnover. Salesman commission based on turnover account. So basically, it is expenditure, right? So this is to be created as a primary cost element in controlling, right? Now, because basically this is expenditure, so we can give category number 1. I told you, normally for every expenditure, we can use number 01. But the salesman commission reduces your sales revenue. In that case, we can give category number 12. What is difference? See, if you enter the 01, right, the system will take this expenditure into controlling as one among all other hundreds of expenditure GL accounts. If you create the salesman commission based on turnover with the category number 1, right, the system will take this expenditure into controlling as one among all other hundreds of expenditure GL accounts. But if you take category number 12, if you enter category number 12 in the master record, then the system will take this expenditure into controlling separately, informing you that this is the expenditure which is reducing your sales revenue. So try to control this expenditure. Your sales revenue is increased. To that extent, your profits are increased. Say, for example, this month, right, we have announced one scheme for all the sales representatives. So whoever sales representative achieves a turnover of 1 crore, right, we are going to give him 1% commission. So one sales representative has achieved turnover of 1 crore. On 1 crore, we have to give 1%. That is 1 lakh as incentive. So what is the net contribution? What is the net sales? 99 lakhs, right? On this, 10% is our profit percentage. That is 9,90,000 is the profit. Now, if you enter the category number 12, the system shows you that this expenditure is reducing your sales revenue. Try to control this expenditure. Now, this month also, we have announced the scheme. But the management has thought that 1% may be too much, right? Anyhow, we are giving a salary of 50,000 to the sales representatives, right? In addition to that, 1 lakh incentive is too much, right? That's why what the management thought is this month, instead of 1%, we wanted to give 0.5%. Here you may get one doubt. If you reduce the percentage commission, you may he may not work properly, right? No, that's not true. He is getting his regular salary. In addition to his regular salary, right? This incentive is extra. So it definitely will work out. Now, this month also, he has achieved the turnover of 1 crore. On 1 crore, 0.5% means 50,000, right? So net contribution of the sales, 99 lakh 50,000, right? This is correct, no figure, 99 lakh 50,000, yes, into 10%. Here it comes to 9,95,000. 5,000 is increase, your profit. That is the difference. Clear? So this technical terminology, I will explain you at the time of COPA. COPA means controlling profitability analysis. Then external settlement cost elements. This category is used to settle or apportion or transfer the cost of a controlling object, such as an internal order to an object outside the controlling component. For example, cost of the production order settled to the GL account in financial accounting, that is finished goods stock account, the settlement of cost of the assets under construction, etc. This I will explain you at the time of internal order accounting in control. So these are the primary cost element categories, right? And these primary cost element categories were system defined. You cannot create your own primary cost element categories. See, all the primary cost elements are profit loss account items. Underline this. All the primary cost elements are profit loss account items. Then secondary cost elements. See, all the cost, just reverse to primary cost elements. All the cost elements which do not have the corresponding GL accounts and to which cost elements we cannot post directly are called secondary cost elements. The secondary cost elements are created in controlling only. The secondary cost elements are used to identify the activities in controlling, such as assessment of overheads, settlement of internal orders, etc. See, at this point of time, you cannot understand anything, the secondary cost elements. I will just read out the notes, that's it, right? In the cost center accounting, right? You can 100% understand what exactly is the secondary cost element. Okay? You cannot visualize now. Similar to primary cost element categories, the secondary cost elements are also categorized. And these are the secondary cost element categories. We have to remember these numbers. Internal settlement cost elements 21. This category is used to apportion the cost of a CO object like internal order, production order to the cost centers and other controlling objects. Then 31, results analysis cost elements. This category is used to analyze the expenses and revenues on the long-term cost objects like projects and production orders. 41, overhead cost element. This category is used to apportion the functional overheads, that is administration overheads, factory overheads, sales and distribution overheads, and research and distribution overheads. Research and development overheads, not distribution. Research and development overheads. Then 42, assessment cost elements. This category is used to apportion the cost of the service cost center to other cost centers. 43, allocation cost elements. This category is used to allocate the overheads on the basis of activity quantities to the cost centers. So these we will discuss throughout controlling, right? But what exactly is the secondary cost element? You can start understanding from the cost center accounting. Don't worry about it for the time being. Then all the primary cost element categories and secondary cost element categories are system defined and cannot be changed or added. So actually, we create the master records for primary cost elements and secondary cost elements in the cost element accounting. But we have not yet seen what exactly is the secondary cost element. So we create the secondary cost element master records later on. For the time being, we have to create the primary cost element master records. So the primary cost elements can be created in the following ways. From financial accounting. Number 2, in the controlling component directly. Number 3, automatic creation of cost elements. So we will see all these 3 methods one by one. So creation of cost element from F5. transaction code FSWG. So we have one expenses GL account, salaries, right? 4,100,000. GL account is called 4,100,000. Company code SSKV. Go to menu GL account change. Then click on edit cost limit. See, the GL account number is taken as cost limit number. So valid from 1/4/2022 to 31st December 9,999. So throughout the life of the enterprise, right? This 4,100,000 expenses account is a primary cost. Click on enter. See, short text and long text of the GL account 4,100,000 is taken as name and description of the cost limit. Now, cost limit category. If you press F4, these are the cost limit categories. Normally, for every expenditure GL account, right, we enter 01 only. 1 or 01, same. Click on save. Cost limit has been created. So from FS00, we have created the primary cost limit, right? Now, creation of cost limit from CO, transaction code KA0. See, normally all the CO transaction code starts with K. KA01. Cost element is, we have the wages account, right? So we have to enter wages account GL account number 1. Because primary cost element will have a corresponding GL account compulsory, right? So cost element is equal to 4,200,000. Valid from 1/4/2022. Just a minute. Valid from 1/4/2022 to 31st December 9,999. Click on enter. See, cost limit category 01. Click on now. Do one thing, write one more sentence. In the same way, create rent account also. Create rent account also as primary cost limit. See, cost limit 4,300,000. Rent account GL account number 4,300,000, right? So cost limit is equal to 4,300,000. Valid from 1/4/2022 to 31st December 9,999. Click on enter. Cost limit category 01. See here, look at the screen. In order to create a primary cost limit in controlling, first it should be created as a GL account in financial account. Say for example, 4 lakhs, 4,599,000. Chart of accounts SSKV. See here, we don't have any GL account with the number 4,311,000. So 4,310,000 is there, 4,315,000 is there, right? So in between, 4,311,000 is not there as a GL account, right? Now, I will try to create a cost element with the 4,311,000. See what happens. AA0. 4,311,000. Create the GL account 4,311,000 first. So without the corresponding GL account in FI, we cannot create the primary cost element in CO. Okay. Now, so we have seen the creation of cost elements from FI and also from controlling directly, right? Now, automatic creation of cost elements means what? So the third way is automatic creation of primary cost elements. Using this function, we can create a range or group of GL accounts as primary cost elements at a time. Means, for example, in your company, right? In your client company, FI was implemented 2 years back, right? Now, in F5, we have 500 expenses GL accounts. Now, this year, we are implementing CO. Now, all these expenses GL accounts are to be created as primary cost elements in controlling now, right? So, if you use either FS00, right, or KA01, there you create only one GL account as primary cost element at a time, right? In that case, we have to use either FS00 or KA01 500 times, which is very time consuming, right? That's why SAP has given another method, automatic creation of primary cost elements, right? So using this method, we can create all the 500 expenses GL accounts as primary cost elements at a stroke. How? Let us see. Following everybody, automatic generation of cost elements, transaction code, OKB2. Chart of accounts is equal to SSKV. Click on counter. Click on new entries. Account from. Our expenses GL account starts from 4 lakhs. Don't touch the revenue accounts now. Accounts from 4 lakhs. Accounts to 4 lakhs 599. Cost element category 0. Cost element category 0. Click on save. Then create batch input session. OKB3. Controlling area is equal to SSKV. Valid from 1/4/2022. Valid to 31st December 9,999. Session name is equal to Lakshman. I'm sorry. Session name is equal to username. Session name is equal to username or any name. Batch input user is equal to username. Batch input user is equal to username. Click on execute. See, these are all the expenses GL accounts between 4 lakhs to 4 lakh 599, right? See, these cost elements are created by processing the batch input session Lakshman in the controlling area SSKV for the validity period from 1/4/2022 to 31st December 9,999. So here the system has created only batch input session, right? So the cost elements are not yet created. When we execute this batch input session, then only all these expenses GL accounts will be created as primary cost. Okay. Now execute batch input session SM35. This transaction, you know, right? Select the session Lakshman. See, in this session, 12 GL accounts are there. 12 transactions are there to be converted into primary cost, right? Sigma means sum, total transactions, right? Select the session Lakshman. Click on execute process. Select to display errors only. Click on process. See here, cost element 4,100,000. Okay. See the error. Cost element already exists from 1/4/2022 to 31st December 9,999. So already we have created the 4,01,000 as primary cost element. No, that is why it is giving the error. In that case, click on exit button. Then click yes. Now it is giving the error message regarding 4,200,000. Again, click on exit button. See here, you are exiting the transaction in batch input. Do you still want to keep the batch input data? Yes. Again, it is giving the error regarding 4,300,000, right? So click on exit. Click this. Processing of batch input session completed. Click on exit batch. Now we can display all the cost elements here. KA23. In KA 23, this transaction code, it will come tomorrow class, right? In KA 23, we can display all the primary cost elements. See. We have created 4,100,000, 4,200,000, 4,300,000 manually, right? Others are created through automatic program. Now, maintenance of field status group for making cost center mandatory. Why? We will discuss in tomorrow's class. Any questions from anybody? Okay, then see you tomorrow.